Hey, Shalom family. So, from the beginning, the Most High created the heavens and the earth, and His intention was for the earth to be inhabited by mankind, and for mankind to be a royal priesthood, for there to be a kingdom of priests on the earth, who were operating in the ways of YAH, who operated in righteousness and justice, and reflected um, the kingdom of Yah on the earth. That was a reflection of Him and His glory on the earth. So we know that Adam and Hawa, or Adam and Eve, who the Most High created, put in His garden. He created them to rule and reign and to commune with the Most High. They were as a royal priesthood, and they quickly lost that position through their sin, through choosing to partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil versus being able to partake of the tree of life, right? So the process of death began to unfold, and man from that point some began to choose life and choose the ways of Yah, while others would choose death, would choose their own way, their own knowledge and wisdom to walk in. So in the process of time, the Most High made covenants with individuals, right? We see this leading up to Noah. Noah was one who walked with the Most High, and the Most High covenant with. So leading up to Abraham, the Most High made a covenant with Abraham and says that He wants to. So at this point, the earth is in rebellion. Mankind is in rebellion with only select ones who are walking with the Most High in the ways of the Most High. And the Most High gets to Abraham and He says that I want to make out of you a nation. I want to make a nation out of you. And the Most High is trying to bring back the nation of a kingdom of priests, right? So he's trying to reestablish this priesthood in the earth, this royal priesthood, to rule and reign in the ways of the Most High. He says, I want to make a nation out of you, and to for this nation to be a light to all of the other nations. I want you to have the wisdom of the Most High, of the Creator, of and the understanding in the ways, and walk in righteousness and justice in such a way that it becomes a reflection of the kingdom of the heavens on the earth, and that it is a light that shines into the darkness of the other nations and draws them back to the ways of the Most High, right? So that was what the Most High made a covenant with Abraham, because Abraham walked with Him, and in that process, he intended to make a nation out of those people, right? So in doing that, the Most High unfolds that over time with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Jacob, becomes Israel, and becomes the progenitor of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And these 12 tribes come together, and during the time of Moshe, they the Most High covenants with them to make them a nation. So now He's covenanted with them to make them a nation. He says He's going to give them a land, and He's going to reign over them as king and make them a nation of people, right? So in the process of this happening, they're taken out of Egypt, and they are made into a nation. So they finally make it to the promised land. Those who make it finally get to the promised land. They repossess the land of Canaan. They get to the place where they're able to establish the kingdom. They have this tabernacle, and so this is going on over the process of time, and the Most High is trying to establish the promise of making a nation out of this people. So he intends for them to operate as a kingdom of priests, right? To collectively be a light to the nations. However, they quickly fall, right? Even before they got to the promised land, they fell with the golden calf incident, and so from that point, they're not all collectively now being established as a kingdom of priests. They are now. This is when the Levites Aaron is the priest, and the Levites are set aside and set apart to serve as the priesthood, right? So we have Aaron, we have the Levites, we have the priesthood that is established amongst the 12 tribes now. So this is different from what the Most High intended for all of this nation to be a kingdom of priests. But now there's a select group within who is going to serve as this priesthood. This was not the Most High's original intent, right? But this is how it goes down in Israel. So they get to the land, and the temple, the tabernacle, and everything is established. But for time periods is Israel able to maintain their fidelity with the Most High. They keep falling into idolatry. They keep committing spiritual adultery by beginning to walk in the ways of the other nations. And this spiritual idolatry, the spiritual adultery and idolatry is not just the bowing down to other idols. It is the idol that is being bowed down to is a reflection. Our idols reflect, the idols that are made and named are a reflection of the hearts and the behaviors of the people. We raise up things that reflect what we say that we are standing for, right? And so these are reflections. So for someone to bow down to a particular idol, Molech or Baal, or the various idols, these idols are reflections of the operations of a particular nation of people. So like if you are serving mammon, you are serving riches, you're serving different things, whatever kind of idol that they put up, it's a reflection of what they are serving. So to have these, so when the Most High says things like, don't have the names of these gods in your mouths, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if you have something in your mouth, on your mouth, and you're speaking it, it's because it's something that's in your heart. So in essence, the Most High is saying, not just don't speak the names of these other gods. He's saying that they're speaking the names of these other gods because it's a reflection of something that's in their hearts. They're speaking of the power and the prestige and things that these other nations are having and experiencing, and it's something that's rooted in their hearts. So he's saying more than this. Don't speak the names. He's saying you're reflecting. I'm seeing where your heart is, and what is in your heart, and your heart is going after these other idols, these other gods, the ways that these other nations are operating, because they would, there was trade going on, the same as it is now. There's the merchants and the trade, just like people in other countries lust after the United States of America because they feel like there's opportunity here. So they lust after the gods. They see the prestige of the music artists in Hollywood and all of these different things. They look towards the monument here and the Statue of Liberty, these idols that we have set up here, and they lust after what they represent. They represent success. They represent money and wealth and riches and fame. And people look here to Hollywood. They look to the idols that are set up here because they want to inherit the lifestyle that is here. So in the same way, Israel would look to other nations and lust after the ways that they operated, whether it was their army. So eventually, so they kept forsaking the Most High and because they were lusting after the ways of the other nations, right? So they would forsake the Most High. The Most High intended to be king over this kingdom of priests that had already denigrated to the fact where they were no longer a kingdom of priests, but there was a priesthood amongst this kingdom. And the Most High was reigning as king over them. And they got to the point where they cried out for a king. They got to the point where they cried out for a king. So now they're saying, Most High, well, they lusted after how the other nations, how the security that they appeared to have, the different things, and they lusted after it, and they cried out to Samuel. They cried out and said that we want a king. So the Most High said that he would the people were rejecting him as king. So he gave them a human king. Israel requested a human king. So the Most High gave Israel a human king. So he raised up, first we had King Saul, who was chosen but was not chosen, and eventually we get to King David. Now King David was after the Most High's heart, and through David, the Most High was able to, in him, reestablish the image that he intended through the royal priesthood, the order of Melchizedek. So this begins to be reflected again with David, and David desires to have the temple built, right? So, and the temple ends up being built under his son Solomon. And Solomon begins to lust after and commit idolatry with his various wives from other nations, and lusting after the gods and serving the gods in the ways of other nations, right? Lusting after the various things. So the kingdom is split. So what is begun with David does not continue under Solomon, and eventually the kingdom is split and divided, the northern and the southern kingdom, under that. So this intention of the Most High for Israel to be this kingdom of priests is not being accomplished by the people, because they are continually committing idolatry. They're not establishing the righteousness and the justice, the right ruling amongst the people, because the priesthood becomes corrupt, right? The kings become corrupt. They start to lust and desire things for themselves, instead of making sure that the right ruling is rolling down to the people, so that there is equality amongst the people. There's not people that are being neglected, as far as being uncovered, and there's not righteousness going on. So the priesthood is corrupt, the kingdom is corrupt. So they never sustain this light. It's a light that flickers. It's a light that it's a fire that's constantly going out. It's a light that's not sustaining in a way to where the other nations would look and be drawn to the righteousness and the glory of Yah being revealed amongst His people. So the Most High, He has a promise all along from the beginning that He's going to raise up a king of righteousness. He's going to raise up, and now from the time of David, He promises that this king is going to sit on David's throne, that there's going to be one that's going to rise up from Judah that is going to read Isaiah chapter 11. He talks about this root from the stump of Jesse that's going to rise up and is going to rule in righteousness. That's going to proceed that the spirit of Yah, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of power, the spirit of knowledge, the spirit of understanding. The spirit is going to be the spirit of the fear of Yah. The spirit of Yah is going to be on this king to rule not by his own eyes but by the will of the Most High, by righteousness. He's going to rule and reign. So this prophecy is continuing to go out throughout the ages of one who is going to rise up. That is going because Israel requested a king, so the Most High gave a king. So now they rejected Yah individually, Yah alone ruling over them. They requested a king. So through this process, the Most High grants them a king. It says, but I'm going to have a king that's going to rise up from Judah, that is going to rule and reign in righteousness, who is going to bring back this order of Melchizedek, and it's going to be a kingdom of priests under him. So this prophecy goes out and goes out and goes out, and rolls out. So Israel, the two tribes, the kingdom is split. The northern tribe is cast off. They're taken away first, and He allows the kingdom, the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, to they're sent off in Babylon as well, but He brings them back. He maintains a semblance of the kingdom in the priesthood for a time, until the time comes where He's going to rise up His Messiah, his this chosen priest, this chosen king that's going to reestablish two things. There's a promise to the children of to Abraham, to the children of Israel, right? So then there's a promise made from the beginning with Adam and Eve, Adam and Hawa, okay, that He's going to reestablish what was lost there. So this Messiah is going to raise up to reestablish what was lost by the kingdom of Israel being divided, and and reestablish this people who have fallen under this curse that was promised. If they did not obey the Most High, that they would be scattered, and they would be given to the other nations, and they would lose their inheritance, right? So the Messiah is raising up to bring these people back into the covenant with the Most High, right? To restore them back to the covenant. But he's so to reestablish these people, but he's also coming to reestablish what was lost, because there's an issue of sin and death that was put in order with Adam and Hawa. They started this process of sin and death, because if you sin, the Most High says, if you eat of this tree, you will surely die. If you eat of this other tree, you will surely die. So there's this process of sin and death that needs to be resolved, right? So the Most High, through Mashiach, is dealing with what happened with Israel, but Israel is secondary. Okay, Israel came along to solve a problem. The Most High established Israel to solve a problem that was caused in the beginning with Adam and Hawa, right? So because mankind was in rebellion, the Most High brought about the resolution first of bringing up a nation of people, right? Which is the point of the Hebrew people, the Israel, right? The 12 tribes, the Israelites. This was the point of the kingdom of Israel, Yisra'el. These people were resolve the issue that was set in the beginning of mankind, bringing mankind back to the Father. But then Israel created another problem by failing at that. Now there's two problems that are going to be resolved, because the Most High has a covenant. So Messiah is coming to resolve the problem of Israel. That's why he said, I'm coming for the house of Israel first, because he's of Israel. He's a son of Israel. So he's coming to restore this house of Israel back to the covenant, and to affirm this covenant with them, to establish this covenant with them, while they are still a nation, because the Most High is getting ready to scatter them again. He's getting ready to scatter Judah. Judah has served its purpose. Now that the Messiah has come, this has been preserved throughout this time so that the Messiah could come. So now that this has been accomplished, the Most High is scattered. Now you're going to be scattered. Now you're going to be scattered amongst the nations. I've accomplished my mission. The Messiah has been risen up. And now through his righteousness and his death, and the Most High, death had no power he did not commit sin, so death had no power over him. So now he was able to be a partaker of the tree of life, to resurrect. So now he is able to be the vessel of life for the rest of creation, not just for Israel. He came to accomplish what he accomplished with Israel, to restore them and bring those who would come back into the covenant and be restored, so that all of Israel can be saved, all who will come and be grafted back into the tree of the Messiah, right? Through the Messiah, grafted back into the tree. Same tree. Let's go back to Isaiah chapter 11. It talks about the branch of Jesse, right? Jesse was the father of David. So this is the tree, the stump that was cut off, but not fully cut off. Because we know if you plant a tree and a tree is cut off, the stump is cut off, the roots are still good, right? And if you've ever grown something, something else can sprout out from that and grow. So it'll be as a new tree, as a new plant. However, it's not new because it's still in the same roots. So the Most High is still dealing with Abraham and his covenant, so we're still rooted in this same original covenant. However, the tree, the branches of the tree had been cut off. But the Most High, through the Messiah, being a sprout that grows out of the same tree. He's a sprout growing out of the same tree that he established with Abraham. He's a sprout that comes out of the same tree, but is growing into a new element out of this tree, and establishing branches. He said, I'm the vine, you are the branches. So he is the vine of this tree, and in him we're grafted in as branches of this tree, right? So now we are able to come back in through the Messiah and be grafted back into this tree, right? So we are grafted. We are the original, those who are of the bloodline are original branches being grafted back into the tree that you've been cut off from. But see, the point of the Messiah goes back to Adam and Hawa in the beginning, to bring mankind back to regain access to the tree of life, because the tree of life the access was cut off. He blocked the way to the tree of life. But he established the Messiah to reestablish access to the tree of life for all of mankind. So now, through this tree that the roots were in, from Abraham to the tree of Israel, people were cut off. Through the Messiah, who is part of this tree, is able to maintain this tree, and now you're able to be grafted back in through the Messiah, right? Through the Messiah, both natural born Israel and all of mankind is able to come back in through the Messiah, who is bringing us back to the beginning and making us branches in this tree that is the royal priesthood that the Most High intended from the beginning, that was lost. He's bringing us back to the tree of life. He's bringing us back to the ability to inherit life, to inherit eternal life. So he's making us, again, still Israel, but Israel now consists of those who received the Messiah. Israel is now consists of those who receive the Messiah. So whether you are blood-born Israel or not, you are able to now come back and regain access to the tree of life that all mankind had rejected, right? The Most High only walked with Israel for a time because he was trying to establish them as a royal priesthood. So a lot of Israelites have tunnel vision and think that it is only about Israel, and they'll say, well, it's a Hebrew book. It was written by Hebrews. It was written for Hebrews. It was written, it's in Hebrew language. And we get this tunnel vision thinking that it's all about Israel, when Israel was a part of the plan and failed at their part. Israel was a part of the plan and failed at their part, right? And the only part of Israel that fulfilled fully their role is Messiah. Messiah is of Israel. Remember that Messiah is from Judah. He is from Israel. He is Israel. He's from Israel. So he is the part that was risen up to be able to redeem the whole. So he's redeeming all of Israel, and he's fulfilling the role that Israel did not fulfill in being a light to the nations. He is now being a light to all of the nations. So now he is a light to all the nations. So he is risen up to redeem Israel. He's the kinsman redeemer. He's redeeming Israel. He's redeeming his people. And he's fulfilling the will of the Most High that he intended for Israel to fulfill, is to now be a light to all of the nations, to bring them back to the ways of YAH, to reveal through the Spirit, pouring out the Spirit on all flesh, pouring out the Spirit to be able to open the eyes of the people, to bring them back to the Most High, so that they are worshiping the Most High in spirit and in truth, right? So he's fulfilled that role to bring the people back to the Most High and being a light to the nations. And in doing that, fulfilling what Israel did not fulfill. So Israel failed at their role in being a light to the nations, but Israel was able to be redeemed through the Messiah. And now, as his branches, we still have that same mission of, in him and through him, pointing people to him and pointing people back to the ways of YAH and being a light to the nation. So it's still the same calling that he's given to all of those who are in Mashiach, all those who return to Mashiach, to be a light to all of the nations, and to lift up the path to salvation, to the path of repentance, the path of to bring us back to everlasting life, in the Mashiach. So we lift that way up. We lift up that pathway, and through him we are, through the Spirit of Yah, through our obedience to and faithfulness to the word of Yah, we are now able to be a light and reflect the light, and become now again a kingdom of priests. That's why Peter said, you are a royal priesthood. You are a royal priesthood. We're going back to the beginning. We're going back to the garden. We're going back to what was intended to be a royal priesthood, a kingdom of priests on the earth. We are now collectively a kingdom of priests. We are to rule and reign as reflections of the character of Yah, the light of Yah, his wisdom, his way of ruling. If you read Isaiah 11, what it says that it explains the spirit that's going to be upon the Messiah. That's the same spirit that is given to us in him, that to walk in the wisdom of Yah, the understanding of Yah, to walk in the fear of Yah, to walk in the power of Yah. So this is what we are inheriting. We're coming back into this inheritance of not just the physical inheritance of Israel, of the land and of the language and of these physical things, but of the spiritual inheritance of the kingdom of Yah that Adam and Hawa should have walked in, Adam and Eve should have walked in on this earth. So he's returning us back to be reflections of his glory and his light. So we can't have tunnel vision thinking that this thing is just about Israel. I hope this wasn't confusing, and I hope that somebody can see the picture of how Israel is a part of a whole picture. So this book that we have, that we call the Scriptures, is giving the history of it, is giving how things happened, is giving, how the Most High chose a people to walk with after the people as a whole had rejected him. He chose a people to establish, because it wasn't because they were righteous. Abraham was, so he walked in righteousness, and through that he established a people that he wanted to raise up as a righteous seed on the earth, to be able to reflect his glory and for that glory to spread out. But the people would not. The people chose death instead. So that's why this book is not about Israel, because Israel was great. You see all the failures of our people. So it's not for us to go back and try to replicate the failures of our people, or try to replicate our people at all, but to try to find through the revelation of this story, we are to now find our way to salvation through the revelation and the understanding that we get as we read through these scriptures through the Spirit of Yah. We are to get the revelation and the understanding of who Yah is, who he has been to the people of the earth, how the people of the earth have missed it, and the few reflections of those who walked in righteousness, those examples. And we're supposed to get the point of trying to find the way back to Yah. So we're trying to be reestablished in Yah's light, which is revealed through his Messiah, his anointed one, the one who he chose and raised up to this position, right? And he is the first fruits of who we are called to be. He is the firstborn son of the firstborn son. So Israel was the firstborn, was Yah's firstborn. There's a context for that. I ain't gonna go into that. There's a context for Israel being the firstborn son. He was talking to Pharaoh. He was dealing with something in the earth. So he was dealing with something in the earth, earthly matter. So he was dealing with Israel as the firstborn son of the earth, such as of a type of first fruits from the earth. And the first means that there's more, right? So if Israel is the first, then that means that there's more sons, right? If Israel is the firstborn son, that means that there were more sons. Just the first. You're just the first son. There's more sons that I'm trying to bring in. So out of the firstborn son, Israel, that firstborn was, Messiah, that firstborn was risen up from Israel to be able to be a redeemer, a kinsman redeemer, to bring the sons who had lost the inheritance back into it. So he inherited, and as the firstborn received, the firstborn receives a greater inheritance than the rest of the sons. So he gained the inheritance that we had lost, right? And now he's the firstborn, the first fruits of us. So now through him regaining that thing for us, now we coming after him. It says that we will be as he is. So we're coming back into this thing through him. He grabbed hold of it for us that we could not grab hold of. And now through him, he's able to bring us into that. We take hold of that inheritance. And this is what the New Testament scriptures are trying to roll out and trying to give understanding to, that we are now able to regain this inheritance that was lost. Not just the physical, but the physical and the spiritual. We're able to regain this thing. And he's the first one of Israel to take hold of that. And now we're able to come in after him. He's the first of all of creation, after Adam, to regain that status of son, king, priest. He's able to be the reflection that Adam was supposed to be of Yah on the earth. He was the first one to be resurrected into that and to regain that. So now we are able to take back hold of that, and then we will be as he is. When he returns, we will be as he is, and we will fully regain that royal priesthood and be a kingdom of priests, and we will rule and reign on this earth in righteousness again. So I hope that made sense. I didn't initially intend to go into all of that, but my point is that Israel, the bloodborne Israel, this awakening is great, but bloodborne Israel, it has to come out of the tunnel vision of thinking that this is all about Israel, that this is just all about Israel. If you don't see the whole picture, now you're going to be out here rejecting the truth that you're trying to inherit. You're going to be rejecting being a light to the nations. You're out here telling people that the nations can't even come in, and that the nations is subpar. And through the Messiah, while you were enslaved, while you've been oppressed under these curses because of disobedience, while you've been we as a people have been in this scattered state, the Most High, meanwhile, has been redeeming the nations, redeeming a remnant from amongst the nations. So there's a remnant of Israel that's going to return. It's only a remnant of us that are going to return to, truly return to Yah, and be reflections of his kingdom. And it's only a remnant of the nations that are going to truly come into the inheritance of the spirit of Yah, and be a reflection of him. So the Most High is, in the meantime, working his perfect plan, because he scattered us throughout the nations so that those of us who return will be a light amongst the nations, and be a testimony and a witness amongst the nations. And those who don't will be a testimony and a witness against us as a people. And there's a remnant of the nations, and everybody of the nations is not to be focused necessarily on Israel. The Most High is calling people back to the Messiah, back to his ways. So, and he's doing that in multi levels and multi ways, and ways that are far above our understanding, ways that are so intricate, and a beautiful portrait, a beautiful symphony. He's playing on all kinds of levels to bring people back to light, truth, and understanding in different in differing priorities of focus. He doesn't have everybody focused on the same thing or bringing everyone into the same thing at the same time. So you have to allow the Most High to do what he's doing. And our job is to not be a stumbling block to what the Most High Yah is doing. Trying to suppress the spirit of Yah by silencing people, people of different nations and different races, silencing people based on gender, based on a woman or a man, trying to silence the voice of Yah based off of all these errors of our ancestors, and putting people in the boxes, saying that the Most High is not working. The Most High has worked tremendously through Christianity up to this point, just because as a religion they have failed and faltered in many, many ways, and have been led in many, many errors, does not mean that the Most High Spirit has not been moving through our ancestors through that venue. The Most High is moving through all venues to bring people back to him. It's up to the hearts of man, wherever you are and whatever estate that you're in. It's up to the hearts of individual people whether or not they're going to be receptive to or reject the ways of Yah. So our ancestors enslaved through Christianity have met the Most High. Who got Harriet Tubman to through slavery, and to escape and to make it up to the north and to be able to bring other people back and forth out of that state. Who did that? It was her relationship with the Most High YAH, whatever name she called on him, through whatever small portion that she was given. She was able to take that seed, because his word is a seed. His word is a seed. So that seed of the word through the ministry of the Messiah that was spread out through the disciples and the apostles and the people of that time, that seed has been scattered all over the earth. So whether a person takes that seed and cultivates it, whatever small portion, whatever portion of the word, whatever seed that a person grabs hold of that is able to get them to receive receive the kingdom and be redeemed, they don't have to have everything. One of the letters in the book of Revelation says that they don't have to have everything. They just have to have what Yah has given them and cultivate the portion that Yah has given them. In one of the books in Revelation, in one of the assemblies that Mashiach is talking to in the book of Revelation, he says, to this particular assembly, just hold on to what you have. Hold on to the portion that you have. To some he said your works are incomplete. To some he said, you have this but you don't have that. And to some he said, just hold on to what you have. Hold on to that portion. So it's a different portion. You hold on to your portion. Everybody hasn't been given the same amount to hold on to. Whatever portion he's giving you to hold on to, it's your responsibility to nurture that unto righteousness. So if he's giving you just this small portion of the truth, then you are responsible for holding on to and completely nurturing that portion that he is giving you. If he's giving you 10 talents and a great portion of the truth, then it's your responsibility to nurture that and to walk in it in humility and not in pride and not being puffed up. To walk in it and to nurture it and to work it, and not to require someone else to walk in what you're walking in, because he may not have given them that portion to walk in. So we got to tend to our own salvation, work out our own salvation with fear and trembling, and not be a stumbling block. The Messiah said that you might as well tie something on your neck and throw yourself into the sea if you're going to be a stumbling block to one of his little ones that he's trying to raise up. So we have to come out of the tunnel vision, thinking that everything is about us, everything is about these minute matters. When broaden your horizon, the Most High is doing such greatness all across the earth in levels that you can't understand. But if we silence ourselves, I've been in places and environments where I had a thought about something like, oh, this is okay, this is this, and the Most High would just say to me, shut up. Shut up and listen. If we shut up and listen and hear, it said the Messiah was going to rule not with his own eyes, but if we shut up our eyes and shut up our mouths and shut up our understanding and don't lean to our understanding and perceive with the eyes and the heart of the Spirit, so that the Most High can reveal to us things through his Spirit, you will see the Most High everywhere. You will see it in the midst of craziness going on, in the midst of deceptions, in the midst of things. You'll be able to see something that the Most High is doing, somebody that the Most High is working with, some way that the Most High is redeeming even this situation for somebody else's salvation. That even in the midst of what appears to be darkness, the Most High can be nurturing light in it. You know what I mean? So we got to see through the eyes of the Spirit. We have to start seeing through the eyes of the Spirit of Yah and not through our flesh. We have to raise up. We got to come up, y'all. We got to come up out of these fleshly debates, these fleshly doctrines, these fleshly hang-ups, and grow and mature in the Spirit of Yah, so that Yah can be glorified in and through us in this earth. Because the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. The laborers who have the heart of Yah and the eyes of Yah and the will of Yah to be able to have the power of Yah to redeem his people is few. We got to raise up. We got to repent. We need to be repenting for our own individual. The time is over for pointing the finger. Well, Christians are doing this, and white people are doing that, and these people are doing that, and pointing the finger everywhere else, and we can't see our madness, right? We can't see our immaturity. We gotta wake up. For real. The true awakening is not to who we are as a people, but the true awakening is to who Yah is and who we are in him as a royal priesthood. And that is the awakening that we have to truly come into, because then we'll be light. Then we'll reveal his glory. We'll know his glory, see his glory, and be vessels of his glory on the earth. And then Yah will be lifted up. Then his salvation shall come. Then we'll be redeemed from this place, because we'll come out of the flesh and we'll worship him in spirit and in truth. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Blessings and shalom, family.